Am I wrong for reporting my boss over a nickname? I, 31 female, recently started a new job. It's a 5 guys office plus the boss. The boss is one of those guys who thinks he has a natural charm that ladies would instantly fall for, but he looks like a thumb and has a lot of dumb confidence for making inappropriate comments even when talking to me about work issues. I keep him at arm's length and I'm very professional with my workmates. Some days ago, I was looking after a coworker because he was procrastinating sending me a document. I went to him to make him send it and he said okay, took his phone, opened the Messengers app and sent me a file, but looking at it, I noticed that he saved my number as Jessica Rabbit. I asked him about it, confused, and he looked at me, shocked, eyes wide open, and just said, "I'm sorry." I didn't let him go. I interrogated him until he confessed that the boss always calls me Jessica Rabbit. To be clear, I'm naturally a redhead and I got it from my mom, and I dye my hair red when it gets darker, but I don't look like Jessica Rabbit. I'm flat as a table, yes, and I had trust issues about it. I worked very hard to like my body. I despise the thought of being compared to a hypersexualized cartoon character. I talked to my boss when he came into the office and asked about the nickname. He just said, "Because you both are sexy redheads." I told him to stop it because I don't feel safe, and he said, "Why are you so angry? It's a compliment." I said it's not and stormed out. I went to HR to do a formal complaint. The HR lady said she'll process the complaint, but that it was worthless because my boss is just like that. I told her that I don't like my boss's attitude and need a warrant to stop. Since then, my boss stopped talking to me, and my workmates say that I'm way too dramatic and don't know how to take a compliment. They also complain that they don't feel safe around me because they don't know if I will twist their words somehow. So, am I the asshole here? Am I wrong for refusing to pay for my gay son's tuition after he came out to his family? My 40 female son, 19 male, came out to my husband 40 male and I when he was 14 years old. My husband and I are both atheists and support the LGBTQ community, and we're both proud of our son for coming out. However, my husband's mother is a devout Catholic and is extremely intolerant of gay people. She is wealthy, and my children were told from a young age that their college would be paid for as long as they attended a private Christian or Catholic school. She believes this will keep them from partying, having premarital sex, etc. I don't agree with this and have argued my children getting the best education possible regardless of the school's religious affiliation should be her top priority, but she refuses to change her mind. My son chose a Christian college one state over to attend. He graduated with a lot of college credit from taking many AP classes in high school and will be done in 3 years as opposed to 4. He currently just began year 2, which has already been paid for. During Labor Day weekend, he came home to celebrate his grandma's birthday. He told one of his cousins that he was talking to a boy at his college and thought he could trust him. He seemed supportive according to my son, but he told his mom and dad, and my husband's sister and her husband are just as religious as my mother-in-law and added my son to her. She is livid and called me and informed me that she will not be making any future payments toward his tuition and told me to relay the message to him as she will no longer be speaking to him. I have told him many times not to come out to his grandma, cousins, aunt, or uncle until he was through with college. I hate that he can't be himself, but my husband and I cannot afford his college. I do not like my mother-in-law and will be going no contact once my other 2 children, 15 and 13, get their chance to have their tuition paid for as well. My son is okay with me wanting to do so for the sake of his siblings. He will unfortunately have to take out student loans and eat the cost of his final year. My son is obviously devastated. He both will not have his final year of college paid for next year and that his cousin is not someone he can trust. He now wants me and my husband to foot the bill next year. We have $25,000 saved up currently that we plan on using for much needed kitchen renovations. Our oven barely works, our dishwasher doesn't work at all, and all the kitchen itself is worn down and outdated. My son is calling me an asshole for prioritizing a remodel over his education. We've explained to him our kitchen is falling apart and is much needed and is nowhere near the cost of his tuition, so even if we postponed it, we would still be short as his private school is very expensive. I feel like he is an adult and he needs to be the one to deal with the consequences, not us. Am I the asshole for not using our family's saving to cover his remaining tuition? Am I the asshole for canceling my credit card after my boyfriend refused to return it to me? I'll preface this by saying that I, 27 female, and my boyfriend, 30 male, have been together for 3.5 years. I've been jumping from one job to another while he has been unemployed due to health issues that affected his performance at work. Usually, I'm the one handling rent, bills, groceries, etc. I use my credit card to make any purchases I want. Last week, my boyfriend out of nowhere asked for my credit card. I asked why since I'm the one who handles payments and supermarket trips. He told me he wanted to buy some food and I agreed to let him take it but told him to return it later. Hold on, your boyfriend is 30 and doesn't have a credit card? Your boyfriend is 30 and doesn't have any money saved up? Your boyfriend is 30 and sitting his ass at home expecting his girlfriend to provide and take care of him? Just wanted to make sure. He got back later, and when I asked about my credit card, he was like, "What credit card?" I thought he was just joking, so I told him to just give it back. He said he'd just keep it with him. I asked why, and he said so he could start handling paying for stuff on my behalf. I felt uncomfortable. I said I'd rather not burden him with this stuff and asked him to hand over the credit card. He refused and said that he'll just keep it since it doesn't have that much money anyways. Credit cards don't have money, they have credit limits, ding dong. I was livid. I tried to argue, but he told me to just trust him and let him keep it and swore he won't spend a penny penny from it. Next morning, I went and canceled it, then registered a new one. He must have had tried to use it because he called and was confused asking why the credit card was not valid anymore. I told him it's because I canceled it and registered a new one. He lost it and started scolding me, saying he couldn't believe I had this level of petty and kept on about how I don't trust him with my finances. I wouldn't either. You're a 30-year-old bum sitting at home using your girlfriend's credit card to buy shit for yourself. Get out of here. And how financially abusive I have become lately. You're the financially abusive one? I hung up on him. Good. The argument continued at home, and he called me paranoid and unreasonable and all that. Then he started cold shouldering me and sulking about it for days. I do feel like I hurt his feelings and showed an amount of distrust towards him. So, am I the asshole for canceling the credit card? Adding for some more info. Like I said, he has a physical disability that limits his opportunities for work. He receives no disability benefits because he doesn't want to. He refuses to acknowledge he has a disability and pretends that it doesn't exist at all. When I tell him to look for a job, he'd blame people for purposely refusing to employ him and say that they look down on him like he's lacking or beneath them. Since someone asked, the answer is I do almost 80% of the chores while he does the other 20%. Reasons for that is his disability. Finally, I pay for rent, bills, groceries, his meds, and transportation as well, so I needed the card to be constantly with me. You need the card to be constantly with you because it's your credit card. Simple. I stole my then best friend's wedding cake the day of the wedding. My 28 female, best friend 31 female, was supposed to have her wedding in mid-January. It was scheduled to be a very lavish wedding, the theme being blue because she didn't want to have white on white with the snow. My best friend was being quite a bridezilla the days leading up to her wedding, and bridezilla is not quite the word for the day of. She was being a complete bitch for lack of better words. My task, of course, was going to be something simple for someone who had done so much to help me. Her words. This task was very much not simple. The drive to the bakery was a 45-minute trip each way, and the bride suggested I drive slowly to avoid the cake being messed up. So I would have to take a separate route, which would end up being around an hour and 15 minutes on the trip back with the cake. I got up bright and early at 6 a.m. and began the trip shortly thereafter. By the time I got back to the venue with the hotels everyone was staying in, it was about 9 o'clock. So, as I'm unloading the cake, the bride's mom starts to look uneasy. I thought it was because it was freezing outside, but she called over my best friend and she went absolutely berserk. Well, somehow, she failed to inform the cake decorator that she would like the cake to be a matching blue color as well. How does one forget to do this? She adamantly denied that she forgot to inform the decorator of the color, but this was only one of many other grievances from the bride that were her own fault, that she very much blew up at and did not acknowledge that they were her fault. My best friend got all up in my face and told me I needed to go back ASAP. I obliged. I made the trip back to the decorator and profusely apologized as I explained the situation. Apparently no big deal on a big wedding day for someone else and a slow day for cake decorator. I FaceTimed with my friend the whole time so she could see how everything was going. She seemed very pleased over the phone and said it was perfect. I paid for the touch-up on the cake out of pocket and left. I got back to the venue at around 12 o'clock. My friend saw the cake being set up and immediately blew up once again. She accused me of swapping out the cake she had seen over the call for a different, shittier version. She didn't even let me get one more word in as she backed me into my car seat and made other people pack the cake in the back. She told me to come back with the correct cake or I would just be cut from the wedding. I took my chances and just drove home. I put my phone on silent and ate the cake with my boyfriend and our families. Nobody knows the real story of why I had a wedding cake randomly on a Sunday night for dinner except for my boyfriend, and I don't feel guilty.